The Hakkapeliitta are the grim guardians of Finland's desolate northern reaches, a light cavalry force whose origins stretch back centuries to the opening of the northern Hellgate. They ride not for glory or conquest, but for survival, protecting the scattered, frost-hardened settlements of the north from the creeping corruption of hell. Their name, echoing from battlefield to battlefield, comes from their ancient war cry, Hakkapeliitta, translated roughly as strike at them, a phrase that has become synonymous with resistance in the north. These troops are not part of a grand imperial machine, or a mechanized army powered by industry and faith. They are a frontier force, improvisational, desperate, and deadly. Lacking in numbers and advanced material, they rely on agility, terrain, and the strength of their horses to survive. Their methods are as brutal and unforgiving as the icy wilderness they call home. The Hakkapeliitta's most constant companion is not a tank or any armoured vehicle, but the finhorse, a cold-blooded, sturdy-bred, uniquely suited breed, born for the deep snow and dark pine forests of Finland. Smaller than other warhorses, these animals are known for their endurance and loyalty, qualities more valuable in these lands than sheer speed or power. They are not merely transportation. They are partners in war, comrades in suffering, and often the only other living being a soldier might see for weeks on end. It is not uncommon for a rider to whisper prayers to their steed before battle, and to spend more on religious charms for their horses than on themselves. These steeds are shod with iron blessed by local priests, and braided with protective runes to guard against the evils that stalk the northern wilds. This reliance on traditional cavalry in a world increasingly defined by mechanized warfare is not just a romantic holdover of the past, it is a necessity. Motorized vehicles are a rare luxury in the far north. They are far removed from the industrial powerhouses of the faithful to the south. Fuel is scarce and roads are few. The terrain is often impassable for machines. In this land of black forests, icy rivers, and swamps that stretch into the unknown, it is the horse that rules. Hakkapeliittas fight with a blend of ancient tactics and desperate innovation. At close range, they unleash a devastating hail of fire with rapid-fire pistols and rifles, breaking enemy ranks before charging in with sabers drawn. Their melee prowess is enhanced by explosive tipped lances, crude, volatile weapons designed to pierce the hardened armor of the heretics when traditional steel cannot. These weapons are often unstable and as dangerous to the user as to the enemy, but such risks are considered part of the grim calculus of border warfare. They have mastered the rhythm of the ambush, riding in hard and close, unloading a fusillade of fire, then crashing into the broken lines with steel and fury before fading again into the shadows. Some Hakkapeliittas are trained sharpshooters, dismounting from their horses to serve as mobile snipers. They use the dense forest and treacherous terrain to their advantage, harassing enemy patrols and eliminating key targets before vanishing back into the trees. Their uniforms and armor are lighter than those of other faithful nations, a reflection not only of material scarcity, but also tactical pragmatism. Orichalcum steel is a rare commodity in the north, and the few pieces that exist are usually reserved for officers or used to bless weapons rather than forge full suits of armor. What the Hakkapeliittas lack in material wealth, they make up for with their grim resourcefulness. Unlike most faithful armies, which refuse to touch heretic weapons for fear of corruption. The Finnish border troops have no such luxury. They scavenge from the dead, repurposing heretic rifles, grenades, and blades, cleansing them with holy rites before turning them back on their creators. This willingness to fight fire with fire is controversial in some theological circles, but for the Hakkapeliittas, survival comes first. Faith without pragmatism means only death, and they bear these weapons reluctantly, but purposefully, trusting their priests, relics, and rituals to keep corruption at bay, while knowing that every bolt fired and blade swung is a tool of survival in a war of extinction. Their battlefield is not a tidy grid of trenches or well-mapped highways. It is an unrelenting wilderness. The Finnish forests stretch for hundreds of miles, broken only by frozen rivers and ancient logging trails. The roads that do exist serve as perfect ambush sites, and those who stray from them risk sinking into hidden swamps or vanishing into endless snowdrifts. During the dark months of winter, visibility drops, temperatures plummet, and the woods seem to whisper with the voices of lost patrols. Heretic raiding parties vanish into the shadows just as easily as they appear. This unforgiving environment has forged the Hakkapeliittas into guerrilla specialists. In major invasions, they serve as the eyes and ears of the faithful's northern armies, launching hit-and-run attacks, sabotaging supply lines, and slowing the enemy advance until larger forces can be mobilized. They operate on the edge of chaos, where supply lines fail and orders are delayed. More than once, they've stood alone for weeks, sometimes months, holding back the tide with nothing but old rifles and a map etched in memory. Their tactics are not written in books, but in blood on the snow, passed from one generation of riders to the next in whispered campfire tales and hard-earned scars. But war changes, and so too have the Hakkapeliittas. In recent years, the death factories of hell have begun churning out new horrors. Armoured vehicles, infernal tanks, and steel monstrosities powered by soul engines. And in response, the Finnish cavalrymen have added Molotov cocktails, anti-tank mines, and scavenged explosives to their arsenal. They strike quickly, disappear, and leave burning wreckages in their wake. Each new weapon seized and repurposed is both a victory and a prayer, an act of defiance against a seemingly unstoppable foe. Permanent defensive lines are impossible in the northern frontier. The land is too vast and the population too sparse. Instead, it falls to the Hakkapeliittas to monitor the border, to differentiate between minor incursions and full-scale invasions, and to act accordingly. Their failure can mean disaster, as it did in 1908 when the legions of Zeminar penetrated deep into the heart of faithful territory, bypassing the northern patrols. That campaign only ended with the cataclysmic Battle of Vilnius, where the combined armies of the Kalmar Union, the Free State of Prussia, the Tsardom of Novgorod, and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and the Principality of Kiev repelled the invaders just before the ancient city fell. Since then, the watch has never waned. Among these frostbitten warriors is Johannes Falk Koskela, a veteran of the wars in New Antioch. Like many of his kind, Falk found no peace upon returning home. His soul, scorched by the horrors of the southern battlefields, could not rest, and so he joined the border patrols, seeking both penance and purpose in the only active way he knew how: war. He is known for his long-range missions deep into hell-touched territories, often riding alone or with a handful of comrades into regions where maps hold no meaning and compasses lie. Falk's steed, Hela, bears the scars of proximity to the northern Hellgate. Her flesh has begun to twist in unnatural ways, and she wears holy icons nailed to her track in a desperate attempt to ward off corruption. Hakkapeliittas, like Falk, often spend their meager wages on these relics: crucifixes, saintly medals, vials of sanctified oil, hoping they can shield their animals from damnation, if not themselves. Their horses are not just beasts of burden, they are lifelines, extensions of the soul, and the relationship between horse and rider in these northern wastes is sacred, forged through battle and suffering alike. The ancient forests of Finland, riddled with the marbendil and stalked by infernal beasts of the path of the beast, offer little solace. Yet Falk and his kind press on, even knowing that one day they may not return. They ride not for reward, but for duty, for the belief that someone must hold the line, even if the world forgets them. The fictional Hakkapeliittas, though cast in a grimdark future of religious war and infernal gates, are deeply rooted in the real-life history of early modern Europe, specifically in the legendary Finnish light cavalry who fought during the 30 Years' War under the Swedish Empire. These soldiers, also called Hakkapeliittas, were among the most feared cavalrymen of their age. The real Hakkapeliittas were recruited from the Finnish peasantry, many of whom came from rugged, rural regions. They rode into battle alongside Swedish forces across Germany, Poland, and the Baltic states, famously playing a key role in battles such as Breitenfeld and Lutzen. Their name came from their battle cry, Hakkapeliitta, which terrified enemies and rallied comrades. What set the real Hakkapeliittas apart was their role as light cavalry in an age increasingly dominated by heavy pike and shot formations. Unlike the slow, cumbersome cavalry of Catholic armies, Finnish horsemen specialized in fast attacks, disruption tactics, and flank harassment. Armed with sabers and pistols, they would ride, discharge their firearms at close range, and then charge with cold steel. These tactics bear striking resemblance to the fictional Hakkapeliittas, who engage heretics with rapid-fire rifles and pistols, then finish them off in close combat with sabers and explosive lances. Their smaller horses, often Finnish or Eastern European breeds, were strong, resilient, and suited for long-distance travel and harsh climates. The modern, fantasy equivalent, the finhorse, is not a romanticized charger, but a reflection of this same need, a breed that can endure the wilderness, adapt to cold, and survive when supplies are scarce. Another important point of continuity lies in the relationship between terrain and tactics. Just as the fictional Hakkapeliittas used Finland's forests, bogs, and cold as natural defenses, their real-world counterparts often exploited terrain to outmaneuver better equipped foes. Roads were ambush sites, forests concealed movement, winter became an ally. The harsh environment of Finland was always an extension of the Finnish warrior's identity. The difference is that in Trench Crusade, this landscape is also haunted by demons and cursed by hell itself. There's also a cultural dimension at play. The Hakkapeliittas of the 17th century became symbols of Finnish resilience and martial value. Their exploits were celebrated in folk songs, national romantic literature, and eventually Finnish nationalist movements. In Trench Crusade, the Hakkapeliittas occupy a similar mythic status, not just as soldiers, but as icons of national defiance. The comparison to Lone Rangers, Scouts, and border warriors from other cultures is apt. They are both protectors and outcasts, feared and venerated. And finally, both the historical and Trench Crusade Hakkapeliittas embody a tragic reality, that the first line of defence is often the first to be forgotten. In 1908, the Trench Crusade faithful learned this, and the legions of Zemlya broke through the border, unchecked until the Battle of Vilnius. In real history, Finnish soldiers often bled on foreign fields far from their home, sacrifices overlooked in favour of grander political victories. But their legacy lives on. This theme of overlooked yet critical resistance is also found in Finland's 20th century history, most notably in the Winter War of 1939 and 1940. When the Soviet Union invaded Finland, the Finnish army, outnumbered and under-equipped, mounted a remarkable defence. Like the fictional Hakkapeliittas, the Finnish soldiers used terrain, weather, and speed to their advantage. Ski troops maneuvered through forests, ambushing Soviet columns, and used guerrilla tactics reminiscent of their cavalry forebears. The spirit of independence, improvisation, and stubborn survival echoed through every snowy skirmish. Molotov cocktails, now synonymous with improvised anti-tank warfare, were invented during this conflict, paralleling the fictional use of similar weapons against infernal machines. The cold was both weapon and ally. Soviet tanks froze, soldiers died to frostbite, but the Finns fought on. Much like the heretic hunting horsemen of Trench Crusade, real Finns learned to make war in a landscape where no outsider could thrive. Moreover, just as the Hakkapeliittas often act without support in Trench Crusade, holding the line in isolation, Finnish units in the Winter War often operated cut off from command, forced to improvise and survive with what they had. The Battle of Samasalmi, where vastly outnumbered Finnish forces routed 2 Soviet divisions in a striking, real-world counterpart to the fictional ambushes and delayed actions conducted by Falk and his comrades in the world of Trench Crusade. There is also a shared ethos that victory is not always measured in conquest, but in resistance. The Winter War was not a strategic victory for Finland. It lost territory, but it became a national legend, much like the Hakkapeliittas stand at the invisible frontier of hell. It proved that small, outnumbered forces could hold back the dark with enough will, ingenuity, and belief. The legend of the Hakkapeliittas, both real and imagined, lives on as a symbol of how landscape shapes warriors, how desperation breeds resilience, and how faith, whether in God, country, or each other, can be the most powerful weapon of all. Just as it does in the frostbitten silence of the North, the enduring legacy of the Hakkapeliittas, whether ground in the snow-drenched battlefields of 17th century Europe or the demonic frontier of Trench Crusade, speaks to something timeless and elemental in the Finnish spirit. Through every age and iteration, be it saber-wielding horsemen, charging Catholic pikes, ski-bound partisans striking from frozen forests, or saber-armed demon hunters riding under a cursed sky, the same truths echo. Resistance matters, and identity forged in hardship is an identity that endures. Both the historical and fictional portrayal of the Hakkapeliittas emphasize not only tactical ingenuity and martial prowess, but also cultural resilience. In them, we see how people's understanding of self is shaped by their environment, harsh, beautiful, and unforgiving, and how this, in turn, forms the bedrock of national myth and collective memory. The parallels to the Winter War reinforce the idea that while technology and enemies change, the essential struggle remains the same. To write of the Hakkapeliittas is to write of guardians who are both warriors and witnesses, those who stood alone when others faltered, who made the snow their shield and silence their hymn. Whether facing invading sires, charging pike walls, or the armies of hell itself, their answer has always been the same: Hakkapeliitta, and the world, as it always has, trembles at the sound. I really like this lore drop. I was on holidays when it came out, and the moment I saw it, that I saw the artwork, I just thought, okay, this is going to be interesting. I read it right there and then, and yeah, I'm not disappointed. This is a very interesting one, with reference to a very, well, lesser known military branch in the wider world. I'm sure in Finland it is very popular, but most who haven't studied their history wouldn't know about it, including me. I didn't know about them before writing the script, but I researched and, well, found out they were an incredibly interesting force to be reckoned with. I do have a few questions about what this means for the wider world of Crusade, as I don't understand exactly where Finland sits into all this. In the map it has Finlandia, but Sweden also has Gotland and Norway is Norway. So are they all part of the Kalmar Union, which is mentioned in this lore drop once again, since it says that in the Battle of Vilnius, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, the Tsardom of Novgorod, the Principality of Kiev, and the Kalmar Union, Free State of Prussia, all joined together to fight a huge battle outside one of the faithful cities. Finland wasn't mentioned, but these are Finnish troops. I just wonder what the identity is of Finland. Is it independent? Is it part of the Kalmar Union? What does this mean for the world? I do like that they are expanding on the northern half of the world, because I find the Kalmar Union, it's actually been a big interest of mine. So I found that I just want to learn more about them and the Free State of Prussia. I want to know more about their histories in the world. I want to know more about the battles that have been fought up there with the northern invasions. So I cannot wait for more lore drops of this variety. But I would also like if we could have a bit more expansion on what's been happening in the Levant. I feel we've been actually somewhat absent from there since, well, Alamos was the last major lore drop involving, I guess you could count Ekron, but I feel that was more a lore drop on Beelzebub and the Black Grail itself, and not on the Levant and the situation currently there. I feel Alamos was the most recent time we've actually looked at the Levant and the Middle East, where the main bulk of Hell's forces is attacking. I want to hear more about New Antioch. I would really appreciate more expansion on the base factions and how they're doing. I want to learn more about the city itself, the defenses, the wars, the invasions. It's been mentioned that it had been subject to several major invasions. I wish we get lower expansions on those. I feel we could use a lot more art of horrifying trench warfare. That's what I'm looking forward to. Now, that was my little rant on the most recent lore drop, but there is something else in the works that has been wrecking my brain for the longest number of time. I mentioned it in my Temple of Metamorphosis video. The password for the door, we found it out ages ago, and it unlocked the picture. Feel No Paint put a post up of it, so I'm sure most of you have seen it, but I'm in the Discord for Trench Crusade for the ARG, and I've been trying my own hand with the help of a few others to crack the code. And I've been looking at the Discord if I've been faltering, because to be honest, the geniuses on there managed to crack the last one. I didn't manage to get the code. I had to resort to their help, but don't tell them that. And I've been observing and trying to mark down the community's effort on how they crack this ARG, or are attempting to crack it, if it's still ongoing. There's a bit of confusion about that currently. If you would like the video on that, I will be working on that soon, and hopefully releasing it when the ARG which potentially, as recording this, might get resolved tomorrow, the 22nd of July. Unsure of that yet. We'll find out when I wake up tomorrow. I will have to finish that video when the ARG finishes, but I hope you have interest in that, because I certainly have been obsessed with it, to say the least. It's been kind of everywhere, trying to find out all the languages that are appearing on the page, what they mean, why these words keep changing, why they're getting quicker. It's a lot. And also the video of the snippets of lore that Thomas gave me. I'm trying to turn that into a video. It's proving a lot more difficult than I thought, because it can't really be told coherently. It's just a notebook full of little notes and jots down, so I might just have to make a video where it's just me saying, oh yes, this and this and this is what they mean, this is what it's in reference to. Sorry, I've been ranting for a while here. I don't know if any of you actually like these parts of the videos. I just do them at the end of every single video because I like to talk about my actual opinions on the settings after giving you the lore and the real life history that has inspired them. I like to tell you how I actually personally feel about it. So hopefully you don't dislike these rants. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, I literally just opened the Crusade lore website, which has just been updated with the Hakkapeliittas, and yeah, they're part of the Kalmar Union. Okay, that's us. Bye.